My name is Sadi van Poelje. I'm the director of Intact Academy. In the Intact Academy, we teach coaches and consultants to be kick-ass business coaches who can deal with any problem in your business, but also create innovation. In agile business innovation, I help businesses innovate more quickly than their products to accelerate time to market. So really check out our websites. We've got some interesting stuff up there. So I'll see you there in any case. We're talking about conflicts and conflict resolution and some of the main pointers to do that. I talked about the ladder of conflict resolution. Now I'm talking really about some of the things that I've learned over time that are really important to me in conflict resolution. So two of the things I want to talk about is learning from difficult behaviors and to engage in problem resolution creatively. So learning from difficult behaviors is important. As I said last time, I think, my opponents have taught me more than my friends sometimes. So um, I bow to my opponents, and there have been a few in my life. So thank you very, very much from that. I've learned a lot. And thinking from the earliest times to the times now. I've learned a lot about myself, about my way of dealing with problems, it's strengthened my resolution to really focus on what's important in my life. And, that's been an invaluable lesson. Um, One of the things I've learned from in this opposition, let's call it that, it's not really opposition, is learning from difficult behaviors. And there's three things I really want to say about that. If you define the problem as the person or the personality, you can never resolve the conflict. I remember vividly coming into a team coaching situation where everyone was fighting. And I said, what's going on here? And they said, it's our personalities. They're so big. I was thinking, okay, so we have such big personalities that we can't work together. And I'm thinking, look, guys, because in this case it was for guys, if you define it as a personality problem, your only solution is to fire yourself. Because what are you going to do? You can't change someone else. You can change yourself. It's going to take years. You've got a fantastic product, why fight about personality when you have a job to do together? Your shared purpose is to create innovation in the world so that we can, in this case, resolve the mobility problem. So transportation, they had a fantastic idea about that. They were wasting their time talking about personality, you know. So, and as long as we stayed in that, it was unresolvable. Of course, any conflict triggers unresolved issues in all of us. It's in the here and now, and it's in our past. We call it past and present. And it's interesting not to talk about personality because then, what are you going to do? It's interesting to talk about what unresolved conflict as a person do I bring to the table as well that influences our here and now way of working together. I had a great conversation with one of my colleagues yesterday talking about, hey, we did a project together. What came up for you? What came up for me? Teach me. What did you see? And what can we agree together to do it differently in future? What kind of stop word can we use to say, hey, it's happening again? And that really strengthens our cooperation and strengthened our cooperation yesterday. The conversation with my team there is kind of, they weren't willing to, well, they were willing to talk about other things than personality. So what appeared to be the problem really was that they hadn't defined their roles. And because they hadn't defined their roles, they kept clashing at a deeper level. Nasty. We separated out the roles. It was much better. Okay. So the second thing about learning from difficult behaviors is if you define the problem as the behavior, um, you have to see how are you strengthening that behavior. So I have a young puppy, or I had, and I've learned from puppy training a lot about how to deal with conflict. One of the things the puppy trainer said to me is every time you pay attention to a puppy when they do something bad, you're going to reward it, because you are the greatest thing in the puppy's life. You are the one who walks them, who feeds them, who cuddles, And so every time the puppy does something bad, distract or ignore. And often when we deal with conflicts in our relationships or in our teams, we reward bad behavior. So a manager is most probably spending more time with the person who behaves badly than with the person who behaves well. And I would really suggest to you, stop spending so much time on the bad behavior. Focus on the people who are doing well. Create momentum for change in your teams. Create momentum for change in your relationship. Don't keep focusing on the trash. Focusing on the fact that someone does something that shows them they love you, And if you focus on that, perhaps you will get less time actually to focus on the trash. So one of the things is, how are you rewarding that bad behavior yourself? If you're in a relationship, you can complain about how the other person is always fighting, but you are the one who's rewarding it. So think about that. How am I rewarding? How can I reward good behavior? Catch people at doing things right. It's a much more rewarding way to spend your time and your lifetime. The other thing I want to say about learning from difficult behaviors is that every difficult behavior represents a question we haven't asked yet. So um, often this difficult behavior stems, and I'm sorry, I really am a psychologist in this. I think people repeat patterns from their past. Every time you enter a new relationship or a new team, you're between hope and fear. You think, okay, this time it's going to be different, and you're afraid it's going to end up the same way. And when we're under stress, we replay things from the past because that's what we've learned. We learned it earliest, so it's the deepest embedded learning we have. You learned it in a nonverbal state, so it means that's usually unprocessed. And so when people are under stress, they access that limbic system of survival, and they will repeat patterns from their past, often conflicts from their past that are unresolved. So when I see difficult behavior, I often think, okay, buddy, what story are you luring me into? And am I willing to play a part in this or not? So usually the answer is not. So, but it's important to understand the stories people are repeating, and what is the smallest thing you can do to change that story by being someone different than they expect. So I had a client who kept coming too late. At the most basic level, and I have a rule about coming too late. You come too late, you don't get to participate. This time I thought, well, this is someone that's really, it's a symptom, it's a symptom, not the problem. So I'm wondering what that means. And as I took that person separately and I said, what's going on here? Because in everything else, you're punctual, except in the space where you could have a possibility to change. And as a matter of fact, you're always too late 10 minutes. So if you're always 10 minutes too late, you could probably always be on time. So what's going on? And they told me a story of their past in which they grew up with a very dominant, well, non-existent, an absent mother, a very dominant father. It's not unusual, unfortunately. And the only way they could find freedom was by managing their time. So by secretly always being a little bit too late, they still had a feeling of agency, so that they had something to say, to say in their lives. Obviously, as a child, you are dependent. So it's very difficult to find agency. And any little space where children find agency, I celebrate. It's fantastic. I'm really happy about that. So instead of saying, punishing the bad behavior, I said, fantastic, please come later. Because I thought, how can I reward something that is actually healthy behavior, in which people can find their potency. Um, and I contract for it with the group. I said, listen, the general rule here is we have to be on time, except for this person. They can come and go as they please. And lo and behold, from that day onward, they came on time and started doing the real work, which was around how, I over adapt. How can I find freedom in any situation I am in? How can I belong and be free at the same time? And that was the real work. So my wish for you is anytime you feel in conflict, look at the behavior. If you think it's difficult, think about, not defining the person, checking if you're rewarding the behavior, and really looking at what is the meaning of this? What is the smallest thing I can do to change their story of their past in this conflict? I wish you wisdom.